The real question that in front of the discussion right now is what's next for education? How would schools, classroom, roles of teachers, how that's going to behave to really make us suitable to the challenges of the future? If I look at the challenges of the education system, I'll go to an extreme. If you think about the revolution that human beings have gone through, the first revolution was the agricultural revolution. It was very much using the power of animals which are stronger than human. I go many other things, I just oversimplify. The Industrial Revolution was creating machines that were stronger than animals. You know, a car has multiple horsepowers, that's how we measure everything. And I was fortunate to be part of the creation of the next revolution, the digital revolution. To people who don't know me, I used to work at Intel for many years. My last job was the chief product officer of the company. I was basically behind every microprocessor that the world have been used in the past 30 years and have created the whole huge power of computing and communication that we are now using. But what's happening and what was discussed before, just the previous speaker talked about the robots, that we are now trying to build machines that are smarter than human beings. And this is an opportunity, could be a huge problem. It's a problem because I'm now hearing all kinds of sociologists talking about that basically most of the people in the world will have nothing to do in the new world, and now they have to invent all these methods to pay people money for not working. By the way, if you pay people money for not working, you don't need an education system. You know, why waste the time and energy? Give them the money. Now everybody talks about how this money is going to be generated. Interesting problem, but let's have these people. I think the job of the education system is to make sure that we people have an edge on the smartest machine and we know how to use them other than learn how to use us. I'm not an educator. My wife is an educator, I think also a good one. She tells me that I'm an educator too because at least I will try to educate 4 children. How good the job I've done, I don't know, but we'll see. But I'm a technologist. And as part of working for one of the most innovative tech companies in the world that was inventing things again and again every other year, the growing gap between what the education system, and I think Sol talked about that, created versus what we needed was growing. And I'll give you examples. When we interviewed people for a career, not a job. When you interview for a job, this is the job description and you measure skills of the person and another person of a specific job. When you interview for a career, you check the abilities of the person to grow over time and to apply the knowledge that this person has right now into solving problems. The interesting part, and people talk about the evolution of the knowledge, and the knowledge is, and Sol talked about how you use the knowledge, and before the discussion, because problem solving is a wonderful skill, and good engineers have wonderful skills of solving problems. But in my mind, the education system needs to help create even a more complex capability, which is inventing problems. I'm not talking about the problems that the political system invents for us. I'm talking about real problems and defining the real tough questions that are ahead of us. And the rule is that if you have an innovative right answer to the wrong question, you didn't do anything. If you have even a mediocre answer to a very good question, I think you solve a lot of things. The other one is that the use of technology, and in the semiconductor system, we use technology to help us do more complex development. Is the education system is using a technology in the right manner to be able to help us achieve the mission that we talked about. In order to talk about that, I'd love to invite Karen and Maurice to the board. I'll present them as we speak, and then they'll talk about themselves for a little while. Karen is today the Chief Executive Officer of Tovanot B'Chinuch, is a non-profit organization with the mission to improve education in the needed social economic parts of the Israeli society, to make sure that students will have a chance equal to everybody else, not because their parents has money, but because of many other things. She'll talk about that. Beforehand, she was a very successful schoolmaster of Bialik Rogozin, which is a school of immigrants from Africa and other places, and she'll talk about that in more details. I think she's doing a great job, and she's coming from the education system, and she'll be very knowledgeable of how to apply to all these missions. Maurice over here is from Netherlands. He told me as a part of the preparation for this one that he was amazed to see that his 6-year-old daughter is studying in exactly the same manner that his 38-year-old son was, while he was expecting in 32 years the education system will adapt to the needs of the 21st century, other than teaching to the problems that his son studies, how to adapt to the situation of the 1990s. He learned programming. He used computers to be the prophet of the election systems, trying to predict using the computer power, and he found out that using technology could be very powerful at doing things. I'll let them speak for themselves, so Karen.
I see that my father, they cooked in front of me.
We just had to find a safe place.
There's no other school like this in Israel. A school that has students from 48 different countries, Christian, Muslims, and Jewish together. In education, there's no strangers.
What you are telling me here is Johannes, now for 12 years, didn't go to actually school. It's right what I'm saying?
Yes.
In the beginning, some of them are very shy. Some of them look lost in the world. School is too different for them.
לכתוב פה גדול, ככה, בסדר?
היה כאילו כולם היו מדברים שפת החיות ואני הייתי היחיד שדיבר שפת האדם.
Before I never been in school. When I came here, I'm like 16 and a half, 16-year-old and a half. And I see, I don't know everything.
To see a student that came from Darfur, didn't know what is classroom, what is teacher, what is desk.
לכל ילד את הזכות לחיי משפחה.
And they were very frustrated in the beginning. He struggled with their homework. He took 4 years of study in 1 year. Yeah.
Something very bad happened to her. We didn't know what exactly, but she needed support.
When my mom died, I felt a little bit alone. Because your mom is like your friend. You remember someone that you loved so much. And if you write about it, it does make you feel better. Yes, it does.
בוא יואנס. יואנס.
I
I want to teach them a language in order to communicate, but discover that in order to communicate, you don't have to have language. You have to come with your heart. You have to accept from inside in order to make something good.
Thank you. It's a very big privilege for me to be here today. And Daddy, please stop me after 3 minutes, yes? Okay, so I don't know what I should say in just 3 minutes, but I'll try to mention the most important things. First of all, I had the privilege to be a principal of this excellent school. To combine two very failure schools, because most students came from a very low social economic. More than 60% of the family is just a single family with a mother that works very, very hard from the morning until the evening. And the students that came from 48 different countries, Jewish, Christian, Muslim together, and we say that we want to be like a home for those students. It's a very big challenge, but nothing prepared me to those students that came like refugees. Really, to be honest, I didn't know nothing about refugees just by the media. Even though today, what really we know about refugees here in Syria? More than 1 million people. It's a genocide. But when those students come to school, it's not to hear about a phenomena. They are here. What can we do to give them a better life? Because unfortunately, we cannot change the past. So the first thing, it's not the technology. The first thing is, can I get your eyes, please? It's an eye contact to build a self-confidence, to give food, to give the most basic needs. And the most important things, it's how to build a trust between the students and the great teachers and the adults. And you see Muhammad, you see those children, we do want them to be able, after that, to mobilize in the society, to have the matriculation, to have dreams. So what did we do? Chaim, please. We diagnosed every student. Can you put the slide, please? And that's what I call the holistic model. It's to be able to mapping each need of students, the pedagogic achievement, the emotion, all the needs, but also to figure out for each student what is the real strength, what is the dreams. And in front of that, we decided that we will open like a clock, that the school will be open around the clock, from the morning until the evening. Pedagogic achievement, provide hot meal, open a center of music, art, and a school for parents with the great teacher. And here it's the miracle. More than 220 volunteers came to school and became a role model for the students. People like you from the high-tech company, Dr. Yossi Vardi, you, your wife, and other people, because each student should have somebody that he can look at him and he say, yes, I can be like this. And on the base of this model, we create the new NGO and we try to scale the model to other schools in Israel. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
My
Maurice. French
is fluently.
To make a very, very short version of what I want to say, I have a daughter of 6 and a son of 38, and I saw that my daughter of 6, if she should go to school now, would be prepared for the same way as my son of 38, because we are still preparing children for the year 1990. And we do it in schools designed by the Germans in 1890, based on the same group. If you have the same age, we do the same thing to you. If you want personalized education, you cannot organize children in groups of the same age. So I built a school for my daughter based on the technology, but not the technology to add to the old organization, but completely reinvent the school from scratch, where technology is a very important aspect. I have a video that I will show that's about 6 months after starting our first school in Amsterdam, 1.5 years ago. Currently we have 40 schools in the Netherlands, 8,000 children, all public schools, and next week we will open 2 schools in Johannesburg. And with the movie of 5 minutes, you get an impression of the setup of our school. This is our showcase, but we have many other schools in transition from the old model to the new model. You can show the video. Completely financed by the government.
Hallo, welkom in de ontmoeting. Het is weer de atelier. Dat is de atelier. Dit is rekenatelier. Dit is het stilteruimte. Als ik het zie, is hier moet je heel zaken.
In de rekentijd kunnen we zo zien hoe gaat het met vermenigvuldigen, of hoe gaat het met optellen of wat aftrekken. Ja, dus dat geeft ons ook een goed beeld.
En gewoon op het moment dat je ze ziet, dat je zegt, hé, dit valt me op. Het kind draait steeds de letters om, noem maar wat. Dan ga je dan wel aandacht aan besteden.
Ja.
Het is supergoed, maar 180.
Allemaal noteren. Hier kan je gewoon, heb je veel meer ruimte om echt ook naar het kind te luisteren.
Volgens mij is dat ook cruciaal. Het kind staat dat is echt zo'n verschil.
Wat wij doen is, we zetten onderwijsaanbod klaar. Kinderen maken daar hun eigen keuzes in. En volgen daarin hun eigen stijl. Sommige kinderen vinden het heerlijk om heel veel zelfstandig te doen en weinig instructie te krijgen. Anderen willen graag heel erg veel bij het handje genomen worden.
TikTok is een soort plan-app die je via internet moet inschakelen. En TikTok kan je van tevoren plannen wat je de dag wil doen. Waar je naartoe moet. Want ik kan zelf mijn eigen dag indelen. En zo leer ik ook wat.
Voorheen was het nakijken na schooltijd. Echt stapels. En was ik soms 2 uur bezig, als je het goed wil doen.
Voordeel van de iPad.
En ja, dat vind ik ook wel een voordeel dat we dat nu niet meer hoeven doen. Want de volgende dag krijgt het kind een schrift en het spreekt niet meer. Want het kind is er niet meer mee bezig. En nu doen we dat direct. Zeg maar als kinderen aan het verwerken zijn in een workshop, dan meteen even van, oh, je kan beter dit doen of zus of zo. Dus dat scheelt, dat hebben we niet meer. En nu richt je je vooral op de leergesprekken met ouders en het plan van de kinderen.
Mensen hebben hier heel bewust voor dit concept gekozen. Dus die willen ook heel hard werken en de ouders hebben ervoor gekozen. Het is zo'n verschil dat je met ouders samen voor een kind gaat en een kind is bij het gesprek, want het gaat over het kind.
Hier kan je weer vrij zijn, op de ouderschool niet. Dat ik meer vrijheid heb. Dat ik met een iPad mag werken. Vrijheid. Dat je meer vrijheid hebt. De kinderen. Vooral zelfstandig werken is voor mij iets wat ik heel graag doe. Ik vind het veel lekker.
De ontplooiing is voor mij de omgeving waarin mijn kind zichzelf kan zijn en kan worden wat hij van binnen al is.
Een hele gemengde school, ze leert ook veel van andere kinderen. Dat vind ik echt een voordeel. En de diversiteit aan kinderen, culturen, ouders, dat vind ik echt een welkome bijkomstigheid.
Een hele fijne school.
Ja, een hele positieve school. Heel nieuwsgierig en prikkelend voor kinderen.
Okay, I'll now start with some questions. Many people talk about technology and the use of technology. I've heard some people talking about maybe it's all self-learning, it's all about MOOCs, it's all about using whatever virtual reality to teach children. I think you both have a different view, but I would like to hear your view with the new challenges for the education system. What do you believe the new role of the system is? The schools, the teacher, parents, community. What do you think, even with the new technology, what do you think is the role of the system and how it should evolve into the future? Karen, if you may.
It's a very complicated world, but with a lot of challenge and opportunities. So I think that it's most important thing it's about the self-learning and how we create an atmosphere that can give the abilities to those students and teachers to be also a self-learning in one hand. But also we should emphasize how we can find the balance between the technology and other skills, because we want people to be a human being with the most simple meaning about what is being human being. And I think that everybody understands what is being a human being. And the third thing is how in this world each one of us, each one of the students can find his own voice. So that is the main role, I think.
Okay, Maurice?
Everywhere in the world, basically, there are the same problems with education. And basically, there are three problems. First of all, the last 20 years with internet, smartphones and mobile phones, that means all the information, wherever it is in the world, I can get in 10 seconds. So if we talk about knowledge, like Saul were doing, it's not like a general knowledge what you all have to know. You have to have the ability to find, filter and apply. And the knowledge of you is not the same important knowledge as the knowledge of me. Technology makes that possible. But we still educate children like it was 30, 40 years ago. Like, just in case you need it later, we learn you now. But that's not anymore the case. It's just in time. The second problem is even bigger, and most older people are not aware of it, I think. Older means 20 years and older. That the new generation, my daughter of 7, is wired completely different than the older generation. Because my daughter already was in the virtual world from day one. And that has a big consequences. Those children are different than they were 10, 20 years ago. And if we have to prepare them for the future, we have to adapt to what they are and not bring them into the past, because schools are museums of the past. And that's the third problem. We organize schools based on the same age, and that's out of date completely. And that's also everywhere the problem. So adding information or knowledge or technology in an outdated system doesn't make a new system. Old organization plus new technology means expensive old organization. So we completely have to rethink, but we are all imprisoned by systems thought about politicians or older people or even parents, and not realizing that in the meantime the world changed completely. And I think that's the biggest challenge. And if you only think that the solution is bringing technology to schools, we will fail.
I would like to follow on you said, and you broke one of the biggest dogmas of, all kids are the same age and at every class. And I bet you already have some data to share with us about the success of this kind of more flexible system that you apply. Could you describe more and share us some data with us?
Yes. The interesting thing, if you ask this question, I always give first this example. If in the year 1920 you had to learn to drive a car, half of the lessons were to repair the car because the car broke down every 10 miles. That's not important anymore. So if we try to measure how children can or people can repair cars, everybody would fail for the exam. So partly, if we test people, we test them with our measurements of the past. We still do that, and there we are above average, especially because the gifted children are going much faster because they are not locked in a system with all the children of the same age. The second part, of course, there are a lot of other things, this 21st century skills like creativity, problem solving, what's implicitly in our system because children are empowered, are engaged themselves because they have more responsibilities in the whole process. And in that way, and there are not assessments for that, there are not examinations for that, but I'm dead sure that they are prepared much better for the future because this part is an important part of our whole educational system.
You wanted to comment on this one, so go ahead.
I want to emphasize, and just for 1 minute, if we can imagine ourselves that now it's 8 a.m. In Israel, we have something like 4,000 schools. It means, in average, 100,000 different classrooms. In one hand, all of the teachers in Israel are very familiar with the iPhone and the technology. And also many of the students in Israel. But then, if in that moment we open all the classes, still, I think not just in Israel, but all over the world, we will see that approximately, maybe 80%, it's, as you said, the same school, like our generation. So how can we change that? Because it is a very big challenge. I think that the key is by the teachers. If we can change our state of mind and think, not criticize the teacher, but start to look at the teachers like they are entrepreneurs and invite them and empowerment them to be part of this staff that build a new curriculum for themselves and for their own students. Like today we need the leadership of the principal, so we need also leadership of teacher to encourage them to make this change because there is so many opportunities.
Can I correct you shortly?
That's funny.
Of course, the teacher is very important. But if the teacher is standing in a classroom and all the children are 8 years old, they have the problem because some of them are better, some of them are worse. So as long as you don't change the organization, the teacher cannot do the utmost of his abilities. And in our school, they don't go marking in the evening all the work of the teachers.
That's a question.
We save time because the children do it themselves with adaptive programs. And in that way, every 6 weeks they can have meetings with parents and children because they save the time of the routine type of work. So if you don't change the system, it's not enough only to have better or more autonomy for teachers.
There's a question from the audience. I'll give you. I'm going to be out of a job in a second.
I just have a question. Kind of a radical idea. You were talking about how we don't really measure these other skills that we're trying to get. And if you think about that slide with the knowledge in the middle and all those other skills, you know, we talk about something called a flipped classroom, right? Where we flip the homework in the classroom. What if we had a flipped education system? In other words, now the education system is about knowledge and the skills are kind of a luxury, just a byproduct on the side. What if we flip that? What if we actually optimize for the skills and not for the knowledge? And maybe if we did that, we actually would do a better job with the knowledge. I'm just throwing that idea out there.
Yeah, but it's it's basically what we're doing, but we are inside the guidelines of a government also, and the government moves not so fast. That's one. So, but the second question, there's even one more important one, what nobody addresses. I think at the end of the school, you know a lot of things what school taught you. What you don't have learned, who you are, what your qualities are, what your talents are, what your passion is, and that's even more important for life. So if you get the skills and have the time and the possibility to discover yourself, you're ready for the future, I think.
If I may mention, I think that we build like a wall between the schools and the society, and we should bring the bridge. For me, for example, in those 20 schools, different schools, we are in elementary school, high school, Arab school, Israeli school, religious schools, and etc., all of them of the periphery, we bring more than 1,400 volunteers to the schools. Those volunteers who came to the schools from the high-tech, adults, from Mechina, etc., it's kind like of the real life, the community. So it's not, okay, now we are giving the knowledge and in the afternoon we are talking about norms. I think that instead talking too much about values, to live together, adults and young and diversity of the Israeli population, it's the real life.
This leads me to another question. And in my view, is one of the biggest issues of the current education system versus what we need outside. And you're right, Saul, the army teaches you the other way. The school system today is very individual. They measure your knowledge in math, they measure your knowledge in language, they measure all kinds of things. What we learned in the army was that you either hang with each other or you are going to be hung one by the other. So it's all about the team and how the team is operating. Of course, every individual capabilities are important, but at the end of the day, the results of the team, which was absolutely the way I measure things at Intel. I didn't care about how smart the guy was, I really cared about how good the team is. How do you think the school system has to change to be able to value results driven by a team solution, not by individual solution?
Basically, because you do project-based learning, and the projects are teams. But if your whole system is, at the end of the day or the end of the year, we have this examination and we test you for this examination, that's the wrong part. And what's the wrong part of that examination? You also are forced to learn your weakest points. And after your examination, you forget it immediately. We better could work with the best points, but team operation is so important to learn all kinds of things. But the wrong part is, because we at the end of the school, we have an examination, what was in the past understandable, but is now the biggest problem, because that's the biggest part of the prison we make schools.
If I may say that teamwork, it's, in my point of view, it's one of the most important things that we should give the opportunity to the student. Otherwise, they will not be able to be a human being with tolerance and taking care of each other. But for example, as you see in the film about the refugees, When they came to school, of course, the pedagogic achievement was very, very low because no Hebrew at all. But when we figure out that they are a great dancers and they are a great basketball players, and we build those teams, they became the champion. So this kind of other discipline gives them the self-esteem, the honor, and the appreciation by the peer group, by the other students in the schools.
I'll open up in a second. I'll ask my last question, and then I'll open up to questions for this one. One of the scares and the concerns that people bring up, that technology is going to make the gap between the have and the have-nots even larger than smaller. How do you think technology could be used to reverse this trend, because else it's a horrible situation?
We prove the opposite, because the school we have started was from scratch, and those higher educated people, but we also have schools in deprived areas, a school of Moroccan immigrants with parents who were illiterate. And when they started with our system, it was like a social revolution. And also in the evening, parents come with the iPad of the children and are taught by teachers. So it's the opposite. What's great in our model is that it is scalable, because you can multiply it, because in the heart is the system and the technology, and on top of it you can add the curriculum and you can add the quality of the teachers. So in many ways we prove that it works, and next week I'm in South Africa, and there we see it also, that it happens in also one of the schools is inside the township.
Corinne?
I am an educator and normally very optimist, not naive but very optimist. We cannot ignore that the gap, not just in Israel, but in many countries, it's a very large gap. Not just by the technology, that the main things that give the options to the students, it's the parents' education and the social economic. And the challenge is how we break this kind of those main things that will not influence the future and the present of the students. And I think that the key is by having an excellent education with excellent leadership of principals, teacher, and a lot of commitment.
Okay, I now open up to some even smarter questions than mine. So the lady is first.
Hi, my name is Dana. I'm a student at Minerva Schools at San Francisco. I'm not sure if you're aware of, but I have several questions. The first is, well, first of all, I gotta say this is maybe my favorite panel so far, because you're talking a lot about education in its traditional way with innovation. And there were a lot of discussions today about more of the technical part of EdTech. So I heard two things that I want to address. One is, it felt to me like maybe you have different views on how school should look like, but there's some beauty in different models, especially because in different cultures we have different needs. That's one thing I heard. But I had a question regarding what is the base for the models you have? I know today there are so many such progress in academics and research about how the mind works and how students really learn, but how does that translate to the practices of schools, and how your teaching methods are ensuring the possibility of children remembering and actually learning things for the long term? And I had more questions in mind, but I'll let you start with that. Oh, the skills. What I do at Minerva as a student, that's the second question that I would like to hear your thoughts on. We are learning skills, but we use the knowledge and the information and content as a vehicle to learn those skills. So, for example, if I would let's say the concept we're learning is statistical models. And so I need to learn how to use statistics. And the skill would be to use Python coding to model statistical models through Python. Python would be the skill, and I would have to show results using statistical features. So what do you think of using skills and knowledge together combined in school? And what do you think of using the latest research advances in the academia today and translate that into school practices?
First of all, I'm a researcher myself. And one of the big things I see in research, that a lot of the research is based on the past and things in the past. And I say, and I see it in my daughter, that this new generation, that a lot of things what they analyzed in the past doesn't apply to this new generation in many ways. That's one. Are and I can show it also with respect what's happening in the schools, because children show much more of themselves if they are empowered, engaged, and have more freedom in what they do. The second part is, what is the biggest mistake always in education is you do it from a textbook, you give them a formula and let them calculate. If you do real life projects with children, then you pass all those objects, because inside that real life project, they have to find what is an average. They have to show things, they have to demonstrate things. So that is what we should do, because then you work from their inner side and not because the school says, here's the formula, now you have to learn, and tomorrow I test if you know the formula by heart.
We try to give the students the abilities to make the reflection by themselves. That's kind of how you improve yourself. And in the second hand, it's not the second hand, but in meantime, we try to give the teachers the skill how to give evaluation to the students, but not just in one way. You mentioned the word freedom, so it's based from this kind of many indicators, many ways. There's no just one way to get to the result that we want them.
I'm not the educator, but I'll give you my listen from my management. You learn from what you do and what you say, not from other people who know what other people say. I'll teach you some trick that I learned if you want to get your opinion being accepted by others, you have to make them say that. The moment they say that, they remember it, that they know. And you ask the people in a meeting, what do you remember for the meeting? Everybody remember what they said. Nobody remembers what the other guy said. The same for experience. Just the kids, what they've learned what they've done. They don't remember what other people done. So I think that, in my view, it's the experience. Yaki, you want to ask a question?
Yes. Karen, I couldn't not noticing that in the movie you showed, there was a teacher that got so emotional at the end. And my question is not to you, my question is to Maurice. I mean, if I wanted to implement your method in Israel, I would need to wait 2 years in line to get the Minister of Education approve a special teacher professional development program, and then to do this for a year or two. What's and I remember, the face of the teachers I've seen in your school. How do you do this? I mean, about the teachers without going through all the pain that we usually go in the normal system, and what is the impact of your school on your teachers?
First of all, when I was in a discussion, somebody said to me, it's great what you're doing, but it's good that it's only in the beginning 5 schools, because it's an experiment. My answer was, the real experiment is to put 21st century children in a 20th century model. That's the real experiment, what we are doing. So that's one. Secondly, what we see in our schools, that teachers tell us that we brought back their profession, because now they are working with children. And what we have in the Netherlands, many politicians visited our school, also politicians from abroad. The moment they enter the school, they understand. So if you really want to have from top down the influence, they have to see the example. And for example, now in South Africa, the opening is there, and also the Minister of Education will visit the school, and also teachers from other schools will visit the school. So if you have somewhere 1 or 2 demo type of schools with teachers who are involved, you have to teach them one day, let it loose, let it loose, let it loose, trust the children, trust the children, trust the children, let it loose, because that's the first stage. And then we have to teach the politicians, because I don't bring my child to the prison of the Minister of Education because he didn't want to change, and I don't want my child to be prepared for 1990. And if we need the revolt, not only of the parents, but we need also the revolt of a lot of teachers, because everybody knows the system is broken and we have to change it. And so, in a way, in the Netherlands, we have the movement from below, and that means that now we have 40 schools in the Netherlands, and maybe in 2 years' time we have 200.
May I say last sentence? Yeah. Okay, maybe we cannot change the whole entire world, but still we can do a lot, each one of us.